They have been called the late Great Lakes. Holding nearly 1/5 of the world's surface fresh water, the lakes were an industrial mecca for a century. Though many plants continue to produce, the heyday is over now. A legacy of environmental abuse lives on. The hidden pernicious problem is toxic chemicals dumped in and near the water. The water looks cleaner than it has for decades. It is not. Sediments are contaminated and growing more so as landfills leach daily into the Great Lakes watershed. 43 toxic hotspots have been identified by the Canadian and U.S. governments. 2 of the worst are the Buffalo River and its better-known neighbor, the Niagara River. Its falls are North America's most famous water attraction. Just upriver is a less romantic landmark, a manufacturing corridor known locally as Chemical Alley. The plants that encrust these shores may legally discharge toxic chemicals into the water, but within limits. The rest must be disposed of in other ways. Toxic dumps litter the landscape. PCBs, dioxin, Mirex, the poisonous waste of a century. Landfills up to a mile from the river sit atop fractured bedrock, allowing chemicals to leach into underground streams. These follow gravity, emerging on the cliff face of the Niagara Gorge and cascading toward the river. Other toxic dumps sit directly on the river, making it even easier for contaminants to escape. At least these sites are fenced and posted. 15 years ago, they were a deep, dark secret. 15 years ago, the region's toxic bequest was laid bare by a group of blue-collar families who neither intended nor desired to become front-page news. They were the families of Love Canal, and they forced the nation to acknowledge the contaminated skeleton in its own closet. Joanne Hale was among them.
When my husband and I first were looking for homes, we had to find something affordable because he was the only one working. We had been married only 2 years. I already had a small baby at the time, and it was low crime, not inner city. It looked like an area where a middle-class family would want to live.
The Hales moved to the neighborhood with their infant daughter in 1976. 2 years later, a pregnant Joanne found out they were living beside 22,000 tons of toxic chemicals.
The children would play, they would, eat the berries off the ground, the wild strawberries, and we never stopped and we encouraged them. We slowly fed our children the dioxin that was planted there because we grew our own gardens here.
Because Joanne was pregnant, the Hales were among the first families to be moved out. A month and a half later, Joanne gave birth to her second daughter.
She was born with a tumor that had to be removed at 3 days old. My husband and I, we both have had bone tumors removed. My oldest daughter has arthritis. I've had a hysterectomy. I can never have children again. I can go up and down some of these streets and point to probably 9 houses out of 15 where there's been a cancer death in that home.
Authorities say the toxic wastes are under control, not leaching into the river. But Love Canal activists disagree. After a rain, Joanne can detect a familiar and frightening chemical odor coming from the storm sewers. Joanne has been working for change at the grassroots level ever since her life was turned upside down. Like many victims of the tragedy at Love Canal, activism replaced anger. Purpose replaced fear.
Instead of being at home and acting like Betty Crocker, I now go out 3-4 times a week to different communities. I'm also a legal assistant at an environmental law firm. And I guess Love Canal happened for a reason, and that is the reason for me, is so that I can go out and help other people in communities similar to Love Canal.
Love Canal was the catalyst for a level of regional blue-collar activism unmatched anywhere in the country.
How many of you have eaten fish from Lake Erie? I have too. I thought it was great. I loved it. But where does the water come from? Buffalo River. And what's the matter with the Buffalo River? It's polluted. So we've got to do something to change that. And the only people that can take care of anything around us is... That's absolutely right. You're the ones that have to do the work. I'm going to give everybody a pair of gloves. They're going to fit everybody. Put them on. You've got to keep them on all the time that you're working in the water. If they get a hold...
These are the self-named Buffalo River Rats of School 33. For 2 years, they've been studying their local waterway, working to improve its sorry lot. Their mentor is 6th grade teacher Margaret Heaney.
This is your river. We'd like to get it back sometime to the point where you're not having to be afraid to swim in it or afraid to eat fish out of it. Take it easy, watch where you step. If there's a rock, it's probably going to be slippery.
The river rats are looking for life forms in the polluted river, hoping they'll find signs of an improving ecosystem.
I caught a fish!
Come on over. There might be something in here. I'm going to get the glass jar and get some water so we can start dumping into the bucket.
You'll see. Oh, look at this. Can you smell the oil coming up? Yeah. Right here, Stevie, look at these.
Those are fish eggs there.
Fish eggs?
Yep.
Oh,
Those
can
are
we
fish
keep them?
eggs.
Yo,
Can we keep them missing?
I think so. You feel like you're a real small piece of making this better, but you're not. You're a real big piece of it. And if we do work on it, we're going to save this river.
These kids are active on river issues after school hours as well.
Yes.
Here, they help to discourage the dumping of toxic household products in storm sewers.
That's fresh.
The river rats are part of a larger grassroots movement to reclaim this urban waterway, the Friends of the Buffalo River. This group has been so active and insistent, their river is now the site of major remediation efforts. Experiments with dredging techniques tackle the problem of contaminated sediments. To determine which toxic chemicals are entering the food chain, U.S. Fish and Wildlife researchers study Buffalo River fish.
All around the fish. Hey, there's another ulcer on the left side of the fish. The same chemicals that are causing health problems in these fish are associated with human health conditions. So these brown bullheads are serving as indicators for us of ecosystem health, and we're part of the ecosystem.
Even in the most basic ways, the Buffalo River and many other hotspots on the Great Lakes are being cared for by local people. Because of such community activism, one of the most contaminated regions in North America has reason for hope.